welcome. I'm Julie Chabdi, the Associate Director of the Health and Wellbeing Program for the WorkWell Center and your host for today. Welcome to EatWell Bites, sponsored by the Healthy Campus EatWell Subcommittee. And EatWell Bites occurs the first Thursday of every month for 30 minutes. And we're here to provide you with practical tips, education, and resources to improve your health and quality of life through nutrition and healthy eating habits. Today's topic is on fueling a healthier you. Don't forget the fiber. We'll explore the benefits of fiber and focus on how fiber supports digestion, weight management, and contributes to overall well-being. Feel free to ask questions in the chat or the Q&A based on today's topic, and then we'll end with the evaluation and raffle at the very end. The next slide just shares who we are. We are led by Professor Carrie Kreutzer, who is also our speaker for today, and Lindsay Pine, dining dietitian with USC Hospitality. And thank you to all members of our EatWell subcommittee. And as always, on the next slide, feel free to stand, move, stretch in any manner that feels best for you during today's session. And with that, the next slide, I am pleased to introduce our presenter and co-lead of the EatWell subcommittee, Dr. Carrie Kreutzer, who is the instructional professor of clinical gerontology and pediatrics and director of the Masters of Science in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity program with the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology and Keck School of Medicine. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Carrie. You're on mute.
Yep, just had to find my unmute. Welcome all. Thank you for coming to this presentation. I wanted to start this topic just getting everybody thinking about fiber and foods that are good sources of fiber. So I want to ask you to just put in the chat, what's a go-to high fiber food source that is part of your regular diet? Please feel free to put that in the chat. I am a fan of lentils, and winter times more often put lentils in soups that I make. I also am a fan of sweet potatoes. I like the fiber content, and broccoli. Those are probably higher. And then berries. I would put that on my list. I could go on, but those are the ones that come to mind. So please share with one another. So we're going to start with just talking about why fiber is important. It is a nutrient that is often forgotten about, but we need to not forget about fiber because of its value in our overall health. And fiber helps us with sustained energy throughout the day. It provides essential nutrients for our overall health and wellness, promotes healthy digestion and regularity, definitely has a role in chronic disease prevention and intervention. And don't forget snacks that you can not only increase fiber, but they too do contribute to your overall daily intake. So a little background on fiber and the amount of fiber that we should be consuming. There definitely is a gap in the US population. Only about 10% of adults meet the recommended level of fiber. The average intake of adults in the US is 15 to 20 grams per day, while the recommendation is 25 to 38 grams per day. And it matters because low fiber is a major modifiable risk factor for overall health. I want to start with just defining how much we need and a reminder that our federal government and agencies that work for the federal government have put together recommendations for fiber. The dietary reference intakes defined by the National Academies of Sciences, Institute of Medicine, give us those guidelines. Within the DRI guidelines, we have the percent daily value, which we'll get to in a minute on food labels. That help us to know as we're picking from a food label. And then finally, the newest dietary guidelines for Americans 25 to 30 also emphasize the importance of fiber in our diet. So for us to get enough, we really, for women, should be at greater than or equal 25 grams of fiber per day. For men, it's 38 grams of fiber per day. And we'll talk about the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber, but our soluble fiber intake should be from 5 to 10 grams per day of our total fiber intake. Just a caution or a tip with increasing fiber, and I have seen this in patients that all of a sudden go up on fiber, especially the supplements, and they're not getting enough fluid, and their GI system is not used to the volume of fiber that they're consuming. So the caution is to just increase your fiber gradually if you feel that you're wanting to go up. Look at diverse sources of fiber. Don't just rely on one source. And always prioritize whole foods versus the more processed foods. So I have a question for you. This is a poll, and the question is, which of the following foods provides the greatest amount of fiber per serving? And a serving size, lentils would be probably a quarter cup cooked, raspberries, half a cup to a cup, half a cup of kale, half a cup of chopped raw tomatoes, quarter of an avocado. Which one do you think is at the top of the list for fiber per serving? And it looks like we've got lentils pretty high at the top, raspberries not far behind, along with kale. Not many people thinking that tomatoes are the highest source. All right. So I can see the poll. Should I share the poll?
It's being shared right now, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me share. Can you share the results? So it looks like lentils are at the top. So everybody that said lentils, you are correct. Those that said raspberries, you are correct too. Raspberries and lentils, both 8 grams of fiber per serving. And tomatoes, while they're not high, 2 grams of serving for half a cup of raw tomatoes. The avocado comes in at 5 grams of fiber for a serving, which is not bad for the good old avocado. So thank you all for participating in the poll. Go to my next slide. All right. Let me close out the poll. So what is fiber? Fiber is a carbohydrate. It is a non-digestible carbohydrate with physiological effects. So 2 types that we talk about, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, both important, both play different roles. Soluble fiber dissolves in water, is fermented by the bacteria in our gut, whereas insoluble fibers are non-viscous. They retain their shape. They move through our gut and give us that bulk or that volume, slowing down blood sugar, helping to keep us full because of the bulk that those fibers provide. 2 different sources I mentioned, soluble, insoluble, and here's some examples of each. And most fibers are not exclusively totally insoluble, totally soluble. Many fibers are a combination, but are more heavily soluble, more heavily insoluble. So don't think of them as purely soluble, purely insoluble. There's a mix somewhere there in the middle. So soluble, we think of barley and oats, fruits, beans, black-eyed peas, seeds and vegetables. Insoluble, again, we have vegetables, whole grains, fruits and legumes. I also listed for each the additives that often we see in foods, like inulin, chicory root, are fibers or soluble fibers, psyllium seed, pectin and gums. The insoluble fibers that you may see added to foods that you're buying in the market, cellulose, lignans, resistant starch, hemicellulose. So food sources as well as additives that you may see in foods that you are purchasing. Health benefits of fiber in prevention of chronic disease and intervention. I always think of the label on Quaker oatmeal says heart healthy, and the federal government allows Quaker oatmeal to say heart healthy, because oatmeal is predominantly a soluble fiber, and the soluble fiber actually picks up cholesterol, excess cholesterol. If not picked up, it gets recycled and reused. So it's why Quaker Oats can put part of a heart healthy diet on the label for oatmeal because of the soluble fiber in that food. For weight management, we know that fiber slows down our digestion. It helps us to feel full longer, so we're not hungry between meals. Foods that are higher in fiber often are lower in calories as well, so they fill us up. For people with diabetes, type 2 diabetes predominantly, because fiber slows down the food that's going into our stomach and the digestion of that food, it too may help with blood sugar control, the spikes of blood sugar from foods that we may eat, and definitely important with diabetes. For digestive issues, fiber may help us to have regular bowel movements. But again, don't forget the water. If our fluid intake is low, our fiber intake is high, we may contribute to constipation. The last benefit of fiber that I want to mention is the role it plays in our gut microbiome. And we're hearing a lot in the news these days about the gut microbiome and the benefits of having a healthy bacteria in your gut. We think of the probiotics and prebiotics in terms of our gut, but we have to think about fiber. And fiber, the soluble fibers predominantly, are fuel for that bacteria in our gut. And the effects of that fiber is reducing inflammation, improving our gut barrier, that leaky gut, keeping things from leaking out of our gut, and protecting the integrity of our intestinal tract. So we want to keep our gut microbiome healthy, and fiber is one of the components. It's not just about eating yogurt and getting the probiotics, but having enough fiber that's there for your gut microbiome. So just a reminder for fluid and what we should be drinking. Men, it's about 13 cups of fluid per day. Again, this is National Academies of Sciences. For women, about 9 cups a day of fluid. About 20% of our fluid will come from the foods that we're eating that have a higher fluid content. But just a reminder that fluid is important. So the second half of our presentation, I want to talk about shopping, reading food labels, some different choices. I want to give you some different ideas of maybe how you can increase your fiber intake through foods that you're eating at home or preparing. So grocery stores where we pick up the foods that we buy. And I think of food labels as one of the best ways that we can really know what we're eating and what's in the food that we're buying. So I have a question for you, if you can put this in the chat. How often do you read food labels when you shop? Every time you shop, once a week, once a month, sometimes. And then the second part of my question, I'm wondering how many of you look at fiber? I know many of us look at fat, saturated fat. We look at added sugar. We look at protein. We look at calories or serving sizes. Curious if you're looking at fiber content when you read that food label. So on the food label, food labels are pretty busy these days. There's a lot of information. The key area that I want you to look at is the percent daily value, which is to the right of the food label. And the percent daily value, and it says it at the bottom, is based on a 2,000 calorie average adult diet. And the total here is the 25 grams of protein. So for a woman, 100% of the percent daily value, you're going to meet your needs. For men, you need a little bit more if you're trying to get up to 38 grams. For whatever this food is, for this food label, there's about 4 grams in one serving, and it's providing about 14% of what you need in a day. So it's an okay source. It's not an excellent source, but it is providing some fiber. And tips for getting enough fiber as we look at yet another food label. when we're reading these labels, this label, 1 serving, which is 1.5 cups, is providing 7 grams of fiber, which is 25% of the percent daily value, meaning if we had 4 servings of this food, which we wouldn't, we would be able to meet 100% of what we need in a day. So this would be considered a good source of fiber in this particular food. Unfortunately, the labels don't tell you whether it's soluble or insoluble fiber. It just gives you a number, always underneath the total carbohydrates. So pick whole foods first is one of my tips. Consider preparing food at home from whole foods. Read those nutrition labels. Watch the serving sizes for foods that you're eating, and avoid ultra-processed foods. I don't know that we all can totally get rid of ultra-processed foods. It could be a goal of yours, but at least cutting back on the amount of over-processed foods. What's happening in the ultra-processed or over-processed foods is those foods are being broken down in their most simplest form. They may not have the amount of fiber that you would want to see because it's been taken out, like in a white bread, for example, and they're not going to keep you full as long because it's already been broken down in its simplest form. So plan ahead. The other piece of information on a nutrition label is the ingredient list. And on the ingredient list, look for whole, recognizable ingredients, words that you can pronounce, words that you know what they are. This label has locust bean gum added to it, carrageenan. It has maltodextrin. So a lot of ingredients on this list. The other thing to look at is, by law, labels need to list the ingredient that is the most prevalent by weight or volume in that particular food product. This food, it's kind of cut off, but it's something like wheat flakes and granules, or potato. It may be potato flakes and granules. So again, ultra processed. And that is the most predominant in this food. The other thing that many food labels now have is this smart label that allows you to scan that QR code, get more information about the product or access to the company if that's something you're looking for. We're just going to look at 2 different breads, and I truly am not picking on these particular products. They just were 2 bread examples that I had access to. The first is listed as multigrain, but it is a brown colored bread that feels and tastes more like a white bread. And you can see 1 gram of fiber in the bread on the left in 1 slice, whereas the bread on the right, again, 1 slice, has 3 grams of fiber. The part circled on the label is 2 slices of bread, has 7 grams of fiber. And whole grain, nuts and seeds, definitely contributing to the fiber content. So again, reading labels. 2 examples of frozen meals. Again, these were just meals that I had access to. I'm not picking on one or the other, just giving you examples. The top one is mashed potatoes with turkey and gravy. I don't see any vegetables. Potatoes are a vegetable, but no green, orange, red vegetables are visible, whereas the power bowl at the bottom, you can see vegetables in that. And difference in terms of fiber, 2 grams versus 8 grams. So pretty significant difference between those 2. Some ideas for thinking about adding more fiber. Either adding fruits or vegetables are a really easy way to increase your intake. Maybe things that you eat on the go. Looking at labels, choosing whole grains, whole grain bread, choosing the whole grain pasta versus the white pasta. Oatmeal, brown rice, quinoa, leaving the peel on fruits and vegetables. Things like carrots, you really don't need to peel them. As long as you wash them well and get just that surface dirt dust that's on there, you can leave that peel on that. Same with apples. Leave the peel on apples. You're going to increase your fiber doing that. looking at snacks that are higher in fiber, nuts, whole grain crackers, fruits, vegetable, hummus. A tip when you think about eating out, when we eat out, especially at restaurants where you're ordering from a menu, restaurants are always happy to make you happy because they want you to come back. And they often are willing to let you swap out things on the menu. Maybe they have broccoli as a side dish and your meal has French fries. You can ask to swap the fries for the broccoli. You could ask if they have brown rice instead of the white rice. You could ask for a side of vegetables instead of the onion rings. So think about that when you're eating out. And I have another question for you for the chat. What side dishes do you swap when you eat out? My family likes going to Chili's. We don't go very often, but their broccoli is good. You have to ask them though to not douse it with butter because they usually put a fair amount of butter on their broccoli. You can ask for it plain or just with seasoning. What are you doing? What are some ideas that you can share with others? When I eat at Chipotle, I like Chipotle because you can pick what they put in your bowl, and I I tend to go with the beans and not the rice because I'm watching my carbohydrates. So I'm getting more fiber from the beans than I am from the rice, and I like the salsa. I'm getting the meat. Tortillas if you're getting a wrap. So just weighing those choices of what you want to include. All right. So here's just more ideas. If fiber is your goal, certainly any type of vegetables that you can dip in hummus, you're going to get fiber from the hummus, which is pureed beans of different types, predominantly chickpeas. Nut butters can be a good source, or avocado on a slice of whole grain toast. Any type of fruit salad. If you're a smoothie person, you can add some spinach to a smoothie. You can add nuts and seeds. You can add a tablespoon of nut butter if that's preferred to putting in the whole nuts and grinding them up. If you're doing a Greek yogurt, you can add berries. You could add, again, nuts and seeds, granola. Chia pudding's pretty easy to make. Chia seeds are a pretty good source of fiber. Mixed nuts. My other example that I really like is this salad meal prep. And this you can do 3 or 4 containers and make them all at one time. And they usually can last in your refrigerator for up to 3 to 4 days. If you put the lettuce on the top, it's going to still remain fresh because it's not got the dressing or oils or things on it. Also included is a recipe for overnight oats. You can see the chia seed in this picture of the overnight oats and some fruit that's been added. Again, meal prep, looking at something like, getting some Pyrex dishes that you can add those vegetables, maybe quinoa. There's my favorite, the sweet potatoes, and these can be taken to work and heated up in the microwave. And then I've given you a list for the grocery store, things for you to think about when you're shopping, things that maybe you want to try, and good ways to increase your fiber. So I'm going to wrap up so we have some time for questions with my last question to you all. Just based on our quick little presentation, did anything pique your interest? Any sources of fiber that you're thinking you want to try to add? And pick one thing. I've given you some resources on this slide if you're looking for more information on fiber, and especially fiber and health and chronic disease. There's resources there. Julie, did you want to do questions and then we'll do these last slides, or do you want to run? Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We're still getting a lot of answers in the chat of what people want to work on, which is great. Keep them coming. I definitely saw a lot of people saying earlier that they don't look at the fiber on food labels. They look at other things like calories, fat, sugar, but hopefully this increases awareness of that. Yeah, keep the answers coming. But question for you here for the salad prep that you showed earlier.
Yeah.
That looks delicious, by the way. Does it help to use glass instead of plastic, or is there a difference?
Well, plastic, I will always say, be careful with microwaving things in plastic. What I like about glass is it holds the temperature. If you're worried about it getting broken, I like glass because it's easily recyclable and just protecting the environment. I think glass is a friendlier source for the environment, and even with my dish with salmon, easier to heat something up in a glass dish. I just am not a fan of plastic, and I'll leave it at that.
Great. Regarding smoothies, if smoothies reduce the amount of fiber, are they still worth making? And would you suggest veggie or fruit smoothie?
So you are blending up the fiber. You're doing your stomach a favor in a smoothie by breaking down the fiber that then is going in your stomach, but you still are going to have that fiber that needs to be broken down further. And if having a smoothie is a good way for you to really keep your fiber intake up, I think it can be a healthy food. And it really is based on preference. Some people are very much savory. They don't like the sweet smoothies, and they use more savory flavors in a smoothie. I think just looking at increasing that fiber is what's important.
Great, thank you. Next question is about an ingredient labeled as X gum. Is that processed
Xanthau gum.
Okay.
So xanthau gum is a thickener. It kind of holds things together. It is a food additive, and you will find it on food labels. Yeah.
And is that considered something that's processed, Carrie, or healthy? What would you say?
It will depend on whether it's only that or other ingredients. I think the level of processing is not only those additives, but what's been done to the potato and what's been done to the other ingredients that are in that particular food product. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this person is curious about your thoughts on gluten-free products, especially breads, and its relation to fiber content.
Yeah, if you're following a gluten-free diet, there are breads out there, and I would look at those labels the same as I would a bread that has gluten. Look at those that are better sources. Some have other grains that are higher in fiber, may have nuts or seeds in them that increase the fiber content. So again, not bad, not good, just looking at total grams of fiber and looking at the fiber sources. My slide I gave you with the food additives is that there are many foods that you can buy in the store that are high in fiber, but it isn't from whole foods. The fiber is from psyllium seed, which is a whole food, but again, it's something that's being added. It isn't the same as the whole wheat kernel.
Okay, and I think our last question here, unless another one comes in, is there a value in having insoluble fiber if soluble is absorbed more easily?
Both fibers are important in our diet. The insoluble fiber just gives us bulk to move things through our digestive system. And American Cancer Society has a lot of research they've done looking at colon cancer and risk. And they have looked at fiber intake of individuals, and there seems to be an association between amount of fiber and risk for things like colon cancer. So soluble, just as important as the insoluble. I think my slide in the beginning said 5 to 10 grams of the soluble fibers that are helping to feed our gut bacteria. Both important, not something you want to get hung up on with figuring out the math of how much soluble, how much insoluble. And I also made the point that most fiber containing foods have some soluble and some insoluble fiber. They're not pure in one or the other.
One last question that just came in, Carrie. What is your opinion on fiber supplements like psyllium husk fiber?
So getting your fiber from food first is always your goal. I will share my own personal journey. I have pre-diabetes and I'm taking metformin, and I cannot get enough fiber in my diet to prevent constipation. And I use psyllium fiber. I do the capsules because I don't like drinking the beverages. And I've tried both ways. I've tried really going up on fiber containing foods, and I have to work on fluid, which is why I included that in the presentation. Again, food first, but if food isn't working for you, I think the psyllium fiber can be a supplement, but making sure that you're getting enough fluid in addition to taking that supplement.
Thank you so much. And Dawn Kiedis, coffee is liquid, right? All right. On that note, thank you so much, Carrie, for such an
Yes.
informative presentation.
Yeah.
I'll turn over to Lindsay to round us out here.
Yeah, I'll share our PowerPoint.
Yeah. We'll share the slides.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm here to just jump in to highlight our EatWell resources as usual. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you directly to our EatWell website. So many resources there, whether you're looking for nutrition information, how to make an appointment with a registered dietitian, our EatWell cookbook that features recipes from USC staff and faculty, or one of our many balanced dining guides for campus and beyond. Next slide, please. This is just our the EatWell cookbook that I just mentioned. Check that out. Lots of recipes there. Next slide. Okay, so this is the one I really wanted to focus on here because we have all of these EatWell items in our cafes on campus. And today I wanted to highlight something that maybe you might not have thought would fit within the set of nutrition guidelines, and that's Panda Express. They do actually have a couple of entrees that fit the EatWell guidelines, and that's the string bean chicken and the beef and broccoli. And you might be looking at this list wondering like why the side of veggies with the chicken isn't EatWell, and that's only because the sodium is a little bit higher than the threshold. But if you're in the mood for Panda Express, you've got a few options here, either at the UPC food court or at the HSC Plaza Marketplace. And I suggest ordering from the Campus Dining mobile ordering app for the easiest experience, but you can also order in person as well. Next slide. Julie, you want to continue
Sure.
this?
Thank you for sharing all those resources, Lindsay, and look for the EatWell labels, everyone. Our next session is in May 7th, and it will cover nutrition misinformation on social media. What's fact or fiction? So join us for that informative session. And our very last slide is just a thank you to all of you to please fill out the evaluation form. We'll drop it in the chat as well as send it out by email along with the recording and the slides. And with that, if you don't mind, stop sharing, Carrie. We're going to do our raffle. Thank you, everyone, for entering our raffle today. We'll be in touch with you to connect you to the gift card if you're the lucky winner. So let's see who our lucky winner is today. Ooh, Marilyn Herbrario. Congratulations, Marilyn. We'll be in touch with you. And thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll see you next month, and spread the word to your colleagues to join us as well. Thank you all. And Carrie,